Okay, we're gonna try this one more time. It's gonna work. It's gonna be beautiful. We're gonna move to the car. We'll wait for Helia to join. It's a little warm, so we're gonna... Okay, we're gonna go with Cacao del Sol. Okay.
Hey,
Can we hear
I
now?
can hear you. I
Okay.
might have been mistake with my phone. I don't know.
I think it was me. I think it was a combination of my headphones and I have a Bluetooth thing in my car, and I think it might have been connecting to the Bluetooth thing in my car because I was close. So
Well,
it's fine. Yeah, we're gonna do it on this count now. I like
yay.
that.
Well, I feel like what we covered in the first half was really powerful, and I think it's good to have a little bit of a break to,
Yeah,
you know,
I was a little taken aback by your question too. I wasn't really sure how I was gonna respond yet, so this gave me like a little buffer time, which I appreciate. So. Okay, so to answer your question, do you want to ask it one more time so that everyone knows what the question
yeah.
is?
So we were just talking about like the guilt and the shame and this energy that comes up as a Caucasian, a white person working with the plants, whether it's like personally or in ceremony, and what that is for you, or what that feels like, and what it's allowing you to create, essentially.
Yeah. So um, if you watch the other live, I stated how I grew up in a family that was very like addiction centered, like even with not even like working with medicine, just like in general, like very addictive personalities, very like um, negatively biased and things like that. So I have a lot of shame, especially when it comes to like sitting in ceremony. I find that when I go to sit in ceremony, it's less, I mean, sometimes it's about being Caucasian, but a lot of it is like, oh, you have all of this baggage. Like, you really think that you can like change the lineage? Like, you really think you have that much power? You really think you can do that? Like, who are you to do this? And then it goes into like, you're just some little white girl. Like, you know, it's like this little voice in my head. And especially sitting with, I've only sat in ceremony in the United States. And I think this has a lot to do with it because if I were in a jungle setting with different shamans, I think it would have a significantly different impact. Um, but with the shamans that I've worked with in the United States, not that any of them were bad or wrong or anything like that. I don't want that to come across. I just had an experience where it was like, I have been tapping into past lives for a very long time. And so I know, like, I have some Amazonian roots. I have roots in other cultures. Like, I don't really identify as a white woman. I mean, like, I'm white, but like, I have so much more culture to my soul, I feel like. And so knowing this and then going into ceremony, me looking the way that I look super young. It's like people often judge that. And so I catch the projection of that, like, oh, you're just some like little girl. But I have a lot of wisdom when it comes to working with the plants because of past lives, because of the work that I've done in this life, because of how intentional I am when I am working with the medicine. And so, yeah, so for a long time, I was like afraid to even say, like, the two things, those two things coupled, I was afraid to even be like, oh, yeah, I work with plant medicine. Like, it was like, oh, like, if I were to see it from people in my family's perspective, it would be like, oh, no, you're just another addict. Like, oh, no, you're just another whatever. And so that comes with like a lot of weight, right? Especially when we're working consistently with these plants, because then it's like, oh, you get in your head, you're like, oh, am I an addict? Oh, am I this? Oh, am I abusing the plant? And that's why I think it's so valuable, like you said in the last live, in our last conversation, to really integrate the use of earth when you're working and to tap into your heart, to know and to move from that like purpose rather than like, oh, this is just something natural that I do because everyone in my family has done it before me. Because if so, like from a shaman perspective, people who grow up in shamanic like settings, that is the truth, right? People before them have done those things, but they're not called addicts. They're conscious of what they're doing, right? And so I think when you bring in the play of like consciousness, it really changes the game. When you bring in the heart, when you bring in the body, it really changes the game because your experience is completely different. Like I grew up working with marijuana a lot, and at first it was not intentional at all. It was just like something that kind of fell into my lap, and my dad had abused it in the past, and so I grew up with this like this storyline of like, oh, that's bad. And once I started working with it, I actually used it to feel safe in my body. Like not at first, but after a while, it was like, oh, this is a very powerful medicine that I can utilize to tap into my roots. And it wasn't, if I hadn't worked with plant medicine, I wouldn't be so self-aware of my past lives, of my cosmic origins, of these like unearthly downloads that I get, because it's that connection with myself, but also with the ancestral medicine that allows me to have this wisdom, this depth. And so I think that's just like a, a long way to say like your intention is so important when you're working with medicine, because even with like Advil or something like that, like your intention is so important because your intention is the energy that manifests. So when you're working with something in the physical, the more intention and presence and just awareness that you can bring into that interaction, the more that you're gonna, it's not about getting something out of it, but the more connected you're gonna feel to yourself and the more likely you are to actually receive something as a result. So yeah, my experience is definitely a little it plays in the realm of taboo, and for a while I was really shameful about like my experience and my upbringing, and now it's like, oh, I am so thankful that the people before me misused this so that I can bring this awareness and this presence into my bloodline so that I can reignite the magic and the spark of what this medicine can really do for the world and utilize it in a different way. And I think that's what America really needs, because of the way that we look to something to get us a result when it's not about that. It's about cultivating conscious relationship with these things, and plant medicine is one way to do that, but there's so many other ways to do that too. And the more that you do it in one area of your life, the easier it is for it to transfer over. So I'm really like working on building that. Yeah.
That was really good. There's a lot to unpack there.
Yeah.
I think the main thing that's like ringing in my consciousness right now is the intention. I feel like I could talk about intention for days, but
Yeah.
really intention, it doesn't matter if it's intention to be in a relationship with someone, intention to drink a cup of cacao, to call your mom, like that intention is what guides everything. So like if you're calling in a partner because you're lonely or because you want like to feel this satisfaction or this whatever it is, then you're going to keep chasing that, and that person, you're giving your power to that thing. You're giving your power to, you are the answer to this thing. So the purity, the more pure our intention is of like what our desires are, because we all have desires, and it's part of what makes being a human so beautiful, is that we get to feel and be like, okay, I want to experience this thing, and then that thing appears for you to experience. And so I feel like knowing the reason why you do something instead of unconsciously doing it gives you that focus. And when I was sitting in Sweat Lodge a lot, I like I said, I was like almost twice a week for a year. And I loved this group. It was like a Lakota tradition here in Mexico, and some of the Lakota elders would come. And the thing that really stuck with me is when we first entered, um, she would say, set your intention. And everything was in Spanish, but she was like, basically, your intention is your North Star, right? And so, in your experience, if you have that North Star, you're going to be led there, whether however you go. But if not, you might be in all kinds of things, which is fine. But like, if you have a clear intention of like what you're working with, it unveils your whole experience to a like cognizant, clear pathway to that thing. You get to like feel everything that's included in that energy rather than kind of getting lost in the sauce, getting lost in that person's journey, getting lost in that person's journey, thinking about shit that doesn't even matter, you know? But having that intention and like setting that focus and aligning your heart to it, like everything is possible in that space. And I think that's really, really important with plant medicine or any kind of medicine, earth, like even going outside and getting sun. Like, are you going outside and getting sun because you want to look tan? Or are you going out because you need vitamin D? You know, it's like, it's simple things. It's setting like that connection with the sun of like, I want to receive your nutrients and like what you have to offer my body and my soul, rather than doing things for like egoic purposes or to be seen a certain way or to like show up a certain way.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think if I, to be honest, if I was moving from like an ego perspective, I would not be talking about this. I would not be sharing about this. It's something that I would hide under the rug. It's something that I would, push away because it's not something that is like comfortable, right, for me to speak on. And I think like when it's part of a bigger purpose, the energy moves you just as much as your intention or your input moves it, and it becomes this like beautiful dance. And I almost see plants as like, I don't know if you have this experience too, but I almost see them as like their own beings. Like that's why I call Mary Mary, like because she's Mary. It's Mary Magdalene. She's a water being from Pleiades. I have these like almost like cartoonish characters of the plants in my mind, and I work in relationship with them, not always to get to a certain goal, but as a means of connection, as a means of depth, as a means of whatever. And but it can lead to goals, right? But it's not about that. It's about like the mastery in the process and like actually cultivating a layer. Because when you're working with the plants, it's like working with yourself on a different layer, right? So it's like cultivating a relationship with yourself and the world and a plant and like a specific energy. And I think that that's more powerful than doing something because it's going to make you look a certain way or because it's normal or whatever, whatever the case may be. Like I think a lot of people go to plants because they're like, I need healing. But it's like, what if, I mean, yes, great. But what if we look at it from a perspective of like, I want to cultivate a relationship with myself, And then when you work with the plants, the dance is so much more fun because it's like you're dancing with yourself. It's not this like outer character that you have to like gain approval and all these things. And sometimes I see like shamanic traditions kind of putting the plants on a pedestal in that way. And as much as I love to keep the status quo, like I think we need to step outside of that a little bit and make it more integrative, make it more about exploration rather than like um I want to say divination, but I don't see anything wrong with divination, but I feel like you know what I mean.
Yeah, I think those are all really, really beautiful points. Because plant medicine is literally, I can go outside and connect with a tree, and to me, that's plant medicine.
Yeah.
Like I put my hands on the tree, and it somehow magically takes my negative ions or positive ions or whatever that are like overcharging my body and like chills me out, you know?
Yeah.
And it's that relationship. It's that I feel like plants teach you how to listen.
Mm.
It's like it's a deeper sense of listening and receiving and also speaking. Like when I work with cacao, what I like to say is like cacao holds the masculine, the feminine, and the child. Like the cacao fat, the butter is like the feminine aspect, the powder is the masculine, and when they're in harmony, it brings the energy of the inner child. And so I'm like, when you talk to your cacao, you can speak to it like the divine mother, the divine father, the divine child, a teacher, a friend, a guide, like a medicine, like let it know what you need and let that energy like be cleansed in your body through the spirit. And it is a relationship. It is like it's not the same every day.
Exactly.
And it's always different. And not everyone, I don't want to like say that everyone needs plant medicine. That's not me at all, but everyone needs to connect to the
Yeah.
earth. Everyone everyone needs to have a little bit more connection to the natural world and the elements because that I feel like is what stabilizes our emotions, our nervous system, our ability to receive. And like this little square rectangle thing that I'm holding right now, I've been giving way too much attention to it since coming back from Texas. And I'm like, I just need a couple days to just be outside and reconnect with this area and the nature here so I could really attune myself back into my space. Because being on my phone doesn't serve me. Like, yeah, I have work to do and I have these things to do, but it can become this cycle of like, you know, desiring to connect and like wanting to resonate and relate with people and X, Y, and Z. But if I just went outside and did that, I would have so much inspiration to share and to be like fully in my presence and in my being because I was filled up and regulated by the sky, by the trees, by the plants. And it doesn't even necessarily have to be ingesting, you know?
Yeah.
And you brought up also integration. And to me, integration is it's like the foundation, which it's funny because it comes after, right? But integration is absolutely necessary in order to actually receive because so many people, I'm guilty of it. Like when I left the Amazon, I literally cried, and I don't cry a lot. I was like, I can't go back. The plants need me, and I need the plants. Like, I felt like my soul. I literally like claimed the jungle as like my parents while I was out there. Like it's
No,
just like
yeah.
coming through me, and it was just like, whoa, like that's that's
Yeah.
daddy. You know?
I know that feeling.
Like man, I'm such like a nature nut though. Like since I was a kid, like you find me with rocks in my pockets, twigs in my
Same.
hair. I'd get in trouble all the time. Like mom would be like, "Wash your feet before you come in the house." Like bugs crawling out of my pockets. Like I was such a little nature nut, and I forgot that for a long time. I forgot that I joined the military. Like I started doing all of these things, and I got depressed, and I was angry, and I was confused, and like I couldn't figure out any of those things until I got to this point of so much depression that I was just in bed all the time, and it was so hot, and I didn't have air conditioning that I had to start walking. I was like, I have to leave. And then I found myself walking like 7 miles a day, like, and then I started going to the forest and getting lost in the forest, and that's really what started my whole journey, was like reconnecting to nature, and being like, whoa, I forgot how at home I am when I'm outside, or when I'm with the nature, or when I'm communing with the trees, or even like a bumblebee or like a flower. Like I can get lost in a flower, and I feel like if we spent more time connecting to that childlike essence of play and being outside, then that's all we need. So I'm going to take it back to the jungle because I had these two ceremonies. They were really powerful. It cleared a lot. And then I was like, I feel like there's more. There's always more, right? It's like, I feel like there's more. And I was like, I'm going to go to another ceremony. And then I got to this place where I kept hearing cacao. So I did a 3-day cacao fast when I was planning on going and drinking ayahuasca again. And as I'm sitting with cacao, so many things opened, everything opened and unfolded. And I was like, whoa, I actually don't feel like I need ayahuasca. Like, do I ever need it? No, but it's a very powerful tool and it feels like home to me to be in that medicine. Like, but cacao is just like, welcome home. Welcome home. Are you ready to like fully open your path now? And so many things happened in those 3 days. I was just drinking cacao, eating the beans, drinking cacao tea, and water. Like that was it for 3 days. And every day brought me a different energy and a different download. And it was the most powerful experience I've had with medicine. And I just know that cacao is my way. It's my path. It's my calling. It's what I'm here to bathe in and to bring to others, and however it looks, because cacao's for everyone.
Yeah.
Cacao is literally for everyone. It's the pure essence of chocolate. And it's such a profound journey when we can actually listen to the spirit and let it into our lives. And so, yeah, this desire to like keep going deeper and have more, like cacao just created this like blanket of love around me and was just like wrapping me in this integration. And it's been so powerful. I could talk about cacao for years, you know, like it's like it's the thing for me. And I'll just, and
Yeah.
tobacco is really powerful
I
too.
would love for you to touch on how you know when the plants are speaking to you versus like seeking out the plants. So in that story, you kind of did that, but I would love to know like any like things in your mind or your body that come up when the plant is speaking to you versus when you're seeking.
Okay, I feel like when you're in the plants, all the plants are speaking to you.
Yeah, for sure, for
You
sure.
know, like that was my thing in the jungle. Like when I was in the plants, it was like the plants were like, come, Helia, come deeper in. And I'm like, the plants are calling me. I have to go. You know, like I need the plants. And then, you know, when you're out of the plants, I have this joke that the plants want to eat us. And it's kind of true. Like the plants desire our energy as much as we desire
No, yeah,
theirs, because
can't exist. They can't do what they do without us. Like,
like we're all conduits of
yeah,
each other. And so I have this running joke like the plants are trying to eat me. And but there's this, okay, for me specifically, because I feel like everyone is different, I have a huge dream connection. Dreams have been profound for me since I was a tiny kid. And when ayahuasca first started calling me, it would come to me in my dreams. And I specifically remember, and I had so much resistance. I was like, I'm never going to drink ayahuasca. Like I don't need ayahuasca, right? I had this dream with this little abuela, like this tiny little medicine woman. She comes up to me with this cup of ayahuasca and she tries to hand it to me. She's like, drink ayahuasca in my dream. And I was like, I don't need ayahuasca. I just need rapé. Or hape is what most people, I think it's what they call it in Brazil. And so they're like, I just need rapé. And so she served me and left. And it kept happening in different ways. Like ayahuasca was coming to me in my dreams and I was pushing it away. I was like, no, 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 no. And then finally, like, I was like, I'm not going to sit with ayahuasca until I'm in the jungle. And then my friend messaged me and was like, when are you going to stop running from ayahuasca? Like, it's calling you. I had so many people say, ayahuasca's giving me a message for you. I'm like, I don't need it. It's not my thing. Like, there's this deep fear of stepping into my power. And so I feel like when there's this like push and pull and all of these voices from outside of you, like kind of like swaying you in, but not in a way that you know the difference.
yeah,
And so I was like, well, I don't want to sit with ayahuasca until I'm in the jungle. They're like, well, funny for you, like the jungle's coming to you. Well, this was before I went to the jungle. Someone came from the Amazon jungle, and it was their first time leaving the jungle. Came to literally a street away from me, and I was like, Okay, it's literally like showing up at my door right now. And so for me, that's how I knew with ayahuasca that it was my time. It was like it was coming to me in dreams. I was pushing it away, but then like literally it basically arrived at my doorstep. And the woman that served from the Amazon ended up staying in my house for a couple days. She's like, I need a place to stay. Can I stay with you? And I'm like, I guess this is happening. You know, like I'm here for it. And honestly, the timing is everything. Like the time that I was ready and that the plant had been ready for me, but when I was ready to like consciously say yes, so many things opened for me. Like it felt, you can't really describe it.
Yeah.
You can't describe it. And so the same thing happened with me with cacao. It started to come into my, I was already working with cacao, but in a very personal form. And like I would share with friends, like I'd make a cup of cacao and like we drink together. But like as a medicine and as something that I'm advocating, which is hard to say advocating because you don't want to persuade other people for something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's all this weird stuff with being human,
Yeah.
right? Um, but it was in dreams, and I've had many plants come to me in dreams, and I feel like for me that's how I know is whenever they start opening in my dream space, because it's like that layer, it's that fourth dimensional like layer of psychic space, so it's like the space before the physical, and so like these messages come through before you're ready to like embody them is sometimes the way I perceive the dream space. Other ways that you know is sometimes you
Yeah.
just arrive and the thing is happening and you just feel it in all of your body. Like for me, my body tells me, my heart tells me, um, and I just listen. Sometimes things will rearrange and like stuff will happen and then something will come up and it feels like the universe is pulling me, or God, or whatever you want to call it, is pulling me this other way. And it's like listening to the alignment and listening, being really conscious not to control the experience. Like sometimes money will magically just be there, the exact amount that you need. I've had that happen in so many instances in my life when I wouldn't normally have extra money. And it's like,
Yeah.
that's how I know. The
Yeah.
resources are here for that exchange. And like that exchange has my name written all over it. You
Yeah.
know, do you know what
I
I'm
do.
saying?
100%. I've definitely experienced that. And I also think this is something that I say all the time, but you can't truly say yes until you've said no. Until
Mm-hmm.
you can actually say no to something, you can't actually accept it. So if you're like experiencing like, oh no, like I don't really want to do that, and then there's a point in time where it switches and you're like, oh, actually yes, that's when you fully know in your body like, okay, yes, this is for me. And even what you're saying here with like the money just like randomly appearing, like that happened with the facilitator course. Like I normally don't have like that much extra to throw around, and I had it, and I was like, oh yeah, like this is calling me. And then the money was already there, it was already aligned. And I've also had experiences with plant medicine, like one of the circles that I sat in, I did not know anything of it until 2 days before. Ayahuasca was in my field, in my sphere, but I wasn't like seeking it out. It was just like in my field and in my sphere. And I was at a coffee shop one day and someone randomly came up to me, asked me if they could do a reading, and then invited me to a ceremony. Like, and it was just like the most divine thing. And then like I had someone who owed me money, and that was the perfect amount of money to pay for the thing. And it was just like, so when it's for you. And I also think like tying back into the body is really important, like knowing, not coming from the headspace like, oh, I need this to fix me or heal me or whatever. It's like this connection that you feel that like brings you and bridges the path for you.
It can feel like clairvoyance or like clair, like sometimes you'll have this thing that just keeps appearing, right? Like if you have a symbol for something, like a lot of times when I think of like ayahuasca for say, or even cacao, sometimes I resonate like with a monkey.
Yeah.
And so if I'm seeing like monkeys everywhere, or like images of monkeys or images of snakes, like sometimes it's like it feels like that energy is just wrapping me and like trying to get my attention, right?
Yeah.
And so I feel like depending on how each person relates to their intuition or the communication that's beyond the self, the communication of the self that's beyond the self, whether it's in dreams or through like meditation or clairvoyance or um, images or just like synchronicities. I feel like those are all really powerful ways to know like if something is for you, and to not be pressured into something, and to not do something because it sounds like a party, because I mean you can do that, but I feel like we're at this place in our evolution as humans where it's time to take responsibility for who we are and what we want to do and what we're choosing to do. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't matter what it is, but it's like putting more consciousness and more intention into everything.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah.
And so to do things for our evolution and for our consciousness and to better ourselves is perfect, but to not get lost in that trap because we're already perfect, right? Like, we're evolving so fast. We're evolving at a rate that's like really, really incredibly, like, it's unbelievable. I want a side tangent because you said something that reminded me of a really important aspect of any medicine, and it's when you are working with plant medicine, or specifically if you're going to a ceremony, or if you're working with a shaman or someone one-on-one, you're not just receiving the medicine of the plant, you're receiving the medicine of the person delivering that. To me, it's a tantric act between the medicine and the facilitator and you, not in a sexual sense, tantra as in a weaving of energies. And so I've helped facilitate, when I was living in Amatlan, I used to work with this person, this shamanic man that had been working with mushrooms and different psychedelics for like 12 years. And at first it felt really aligned, but then it came to a point where I realized this person was seeking out ceremonies to receive money because that's how they paid for their lives. And so
I've
it's
had
like
an experience
I
like this, so that's crazy.
I cannot relate to that. I'm
Yeah.
like, if you are trying to convince people to do medicine to pay your bills, red flag,
Or
stay away from that.
if you're just letting anyone in on the ceremony just because you want that check, like you have, to me, that's lack of integrity, to be honest.
Well, also the plants are the earth, which is resources, which is abundant. So when you're in integrity with that, the
Yeah.
resources flow, and there is an exchange. There always is an exchange, but I feel like it's really important to not come from this need of fulfilling a um like a route, like a safety thing, to get other people to do something. Like, that is snaky, and then you tie other people into that energy of like, yeah, I had a really hard time with that when I was witnessing, okay, this person is like really just trying to have ceremonies to make ends meet, which is great. Like, take care of yourself. But it doesn't become this thing where you're like scouting people for ceremonies, or like trying to tell someone that they need bufo or whatever. Like, that is very interesting to me. So no right, no wrong. Everyone aligns and seeks and finds the person that they're meant to, whether it's a good experience or bad experience. It's the experience that your soul resonated with and said yes to. And
And a
it's
lot of, I would even add, a lot of the time, it's the plants working through those people to teach you lessons, to provide you with insight and show you things too.
yeah, absolutely. It's, I mean, everything is in harmony.
Yeah.
I feel like, you know, in science, like everything is constantly making its way to equilibrium, which means that everything stays in equilibrium. Like, it could be a little off, but everything is moving towards equilibrium always. And so just noticing where you're at in your own equilibrium and in your own harmony, because that's what's resonating with people, and that's what's resonating with everything. It's that equilibrium of like who you're connecting with, and like what you're experiencing is all part of the dance of all of the entities and the energies together. And so, yeah, for me, it's really important. I don't sit with many people. I really have to feel a full body yes, and then I usually start dreaming about it. and the people. Like before I went to um, to Peru, I got the message. Now is the time to start like praying for your facilitators and praying for the medicine and praying for yourself and like creating that relationship with them of like, I'm here to support you just as much as you're here to support me. And so if I didn't resonate with someone, but I just wanted to have a combo ceremony and like purge, I'm receiving their energy. They're literally burning me to put the medicine on me. Like, if I don't like someone or if I don't resonate with someone, why would you let someone into your channels and open your space? And I feel like that is so important because a lot of times we go to people we don't know.
Yeah.
So it's learning how to listen and feel what's in resonance and talking directly to the
Yeah.
plants because the
Yeah.
plants will show you. Even
Yes.
if you've never ingested them, the communication starts before, and that's what I say with cacao. Like, as soon as you have the idea to drink cacao, your communication's already started. When you open the bag and you smell the cacao, that's like your first codes entering
Yeah.
the body. It's not necessarily like the drinking of the cacao, it's the whole
Yeah.
process. It's every aspect of it. And so yeah, I feel like if anyone's listening and they're curious or they want to work with specific plants, to start communicating with them. Like create an altar and leave something for them and like start that communication and that ceremony with them. So it's like talking like when I worked with Gambo, which is the frog medicine that you burn and you purge and it's really, really powerful. I cleaned a lot of energy, but like I started talking to the frog before, and a frog actually landed in my shoe um, the last day of my ceremony. And the first day, the night before, I was like, okay, I want to start talking to the frog. And I had an outdoor shower, and I had never seen a frog at my house before. And one popped into my outdoor shower and just looked at me, and I knew that the presence of the frog was with me, and that it was like this confirmation of like, yes, like you have a relationship, keep cultivating it, it's going to help you. And I feel like that's really, really important. So yeah, talking to the
Yes.
medicine, um, creating that pathway.
Yes. I completely agree. Just to wrap up a little bit, I have one more question for you, and then I want to give you a little bit of a spotlight at the end. But my last question is, what's one way that you specifically integrate pleasure and purpose through the use of plant medicine? I know in the beginning you were talking about how you do it because of purpose and pleasure is sometimes a byproduct, but I would love to know some of the ways that you like integrate the two.
Well, for me personally, I have my practice, my practice in life. Like sometimes I do yoga, sometimes like recently I've been working with rapé, which is a sacred tobacco snuff that you work with to clean your chakras and your channels. Um, and I create a ceremony for myself. And so for me, that purpose is so the last few days, when I've been working with medicine, whether it's cacao or rapé, it's because I have a lot of shit that I need to clear in my mind right now. There's a lot of change, a lot of transition, a lot of wrenches in my plan, like things that are happening that I wasn't expecting and like needing to trust. And so creating a ceremony for myself because I need to let in the love and the trust and the support of these things. So I'll create a really beautiful ceremony. And for me, that is pleasure. Like, I love lighting candles. I love burning incense. I love working with whatever I'm working with. And then, like, feeling the alleviation of the stress and, like, the lifting of the veil and just, like, allowing myself to sing or to play the drum or to play the singing bowl or even just like working with the energy with my hands and with my being and with my body like that brings me so much pleasure because that's play to me.
Yeah.
That's play to me. Being in a ceremonial space where I go from a place of feeling like I feel stuck, my head space is clouded, I've been on technology too much, I'm starting to get a headache. I'm like, well, what can I do for myself right now that supports me? And I'm like, well, I'm about to just have a couple hours. I might channel, I might meditate, I might sing, but I just create a space and let that energy be liberated in my body. And then that's when the pleasure comes in. The purpose is like to be connected to myself, to my pure essence, and to clear the gunk in my mind. And the byproduct is the pleasure of connecting to my heart, or connecting to my purpose, or connecting to like other things that are crazy. Like my dreams have been off the wall the last few nights.
Yeah.
And yeah, I feel like that is really important.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think the setting of the space in itself is like an act of love. And I was going to touch on this earlier, but I didn't. But for me, I feel like plant medicine really connects me to my feminine. So even though it's like masculine and feminine, like rapé is typically like masculine, peyote is typically like masculine, Aya is more feminine. I feel so connected to my feminine no matter what plant. And I think a lot of that has to do with the unconditional love and presence and space that plants can hold for us, because when we're working with the plants, they hold a level of space that is very unconditional. They're not judging. We are judging, right? And if we see the judgment, it's a reflection of our own consciousness. And so I think working with that like love energy is so pleasurable, and that's just like my experience. But I love that you shared your way of integrating the two, because I think that's really powerful. And I think it shows that it doesn't have to be this like complex thing. Like it can really just be as simple as like setting the intention to be present with yourself and to come back into your essence, and then letting the pleasure be like a byproduct of that. So that was very beautifully put.
Ah, yours is
um
well, I love what you said, because really, I know we're trying to
no,
wrap
you're
up
good.
this call. We could talk forever. Really, like the plants, whether it's masculine or feminine, it's creating a structure for us to receive ourselves. So the way that we fill that structure is feels very feminine. So I like that you brought that in. That's an interesting
Yeah,
point.
it's definitely, there's like a whole rabbit hole. Like I feel like we could have like many conversations about this. Like there were questions that I had that I didn't even ask, but I feel like we covered a lot of the grounds, and I feel like this is a great introduction for anyone who is looking to work with plants, who may like feel icky or shameful or weird about it, or who is unsure of like whether or not the plants are actually talking to them, or if they're going crazy, or what's going on. So I would love to offer you as a point of reference for people if they want to work more in ceremony, whether I'll let you do that. But yeah, Helia has been a mentor of mine for a while, and we're like friends, obviously. But yeah, I love the way that it's nice to have someone else's perspective when you're doing this work too. So then you're not all in your head. So it's really beneficial to have someone that you can sit in ceremony with, that you can talk about these things with. So yeah, Helia, if you want to share how to connect with you, any offerings that you're doing currently, and yeah.
Well, thank
Yeah.
you. um, well, I first want to just give advice before. So if you're feeling to work with plants and you've never worked with plants, start with
Yeah,
herbs.
100%.
Start with herbs. Start with rosemary tea in the evening or in the daytime. Rosemary is like a solar herb. But even like just feeling like, what herb's been calling me? Work with rose. Work
Yeah.
with something that just starts the doorway of connection. So
Yeah.
like that's really a baseline thing that anyone can do.
Yeah.
Go find some
And it
lavender.
could be like an oil, or you could do like a yoni steam, or even like a facial steam, or you could do like incorporating it in your food. Like rosemary is really good for memory, so incorporating that, working with the intention of like what that plant is known to help with, can be a really easy way to integrate it into your daily life.
Okay, yeah, I love that because there's so many ways. I like to do baths.
Yeah,
Like I'll make like a rose tea and like dump it on myself outside and let it just like dry as this shield of like cleansing and protection.
that's
Um,
beautiful.
it's so powerful. I totally recommend it. We're gonna do something like that in Cacao Facilitator with the cacao. So there's gonna be some fun stuff. So how you can reach me? I'm reachable on Instagram at lucidlyhealing. I also have cacao.del sol is the page where we share about cacao and a little bit of the educational aspects, and we plan on growing that space a lot more. And we have a free Telegram community for working with cacao. Regardless if you purchase through Cacao del Sol or not, you're welcome there if you're working with cacao as a plant medicine and want community. It's free, and we do monthly ceremonies that are free, or I like to call them circles rather than ceremonies, just because there's taboo around that word. And we just kicked off a cacao facilitator course, which Mads is going to be a facilitator of cacao and a leader in Cacao del Sol. I'm getting so many downloads about that, by the way, and I'm really excited. But we'll be holding more of those in the future. I also provide sessions, one-on-one work, coaching with cacao, and also just like energetic. I'm a Reiki master, and I teach, and I have a lot of different ways you can work with me, so just holla. Also, I want to share a little bit about your community, because I know that's something you've been putting a lot of work into launching, and your program that you're setting off.
Yeah, so I'm currently launching a membership, which is basically like a collective space of all the resources that I've compiled over my journey. So this is like working with trauma, working with shame, some of the things I've talked about here. We go into, there's one of the courses is called the Witch's Coven. So this is like working with plant medicine, working with cosmic guides, working with your body as technology, and like really anchoring into the physical, the 5D and like more ethereal realms, and just like connecting to your intuition and all of that. So that is a new it's I've been working on it for like 5 years now, I think. But it's basically just like my heart and soul in a platform. And it's really accessible so that you can tap in and take what you need, and then detach a little, come back, take what you need, detach a little. So it's really meant to be a space for like growth and community. I really want to bring together like different um, modalities and like people who have different expertises and really grow a community. And I want it to be in person eventually, so it'll grow over time. But yeah, that's where we're starting now. And we do free calls every month inside of our free Facebook group, where we'll do like a little somatic session based on like what you bring to the space, what you bring to the altar. Healy was in that last month. It was so fun.
Really good.
Yeah, I'm excited to do another one. We'll be doing that on the 22nd. So yeah, those are some of the ways that you can join the community and vibe. I'm so excited to welcome you, and definitely reach out to Helia if you want to do work with cacao, plant medicine, Reiki, all of the above. She's a very well trusted source. So yeah.
Also, dream work.
Yes.
Yeah.
Lucidly Helia, Yeah.
All right. I love you.
Okay, I love you too. Thank you so much for joining. This was like such a great conversation. I'm so grateful.
I had a lot of fun. We'll have to do more of these.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, have a
You too.
good day, love. Bye.
Bye.